Oh my God, that young man is in so much trouble. He's not doing himself any help by talking, right? By speaking up on it. Where's his attorneys?
Sex tapes have been released. Multiple tapes have been released.
I just feel like a hit dog on holler. And I just feel like he just going too hard to prove his innocence.
Him, and he kept mentioning, he's black and he's fighting for you and he's fighting for black folks and all of this nonsense. So he's trying to manipulate our emotions and guilt us into believing what he wants us to believe. And the reason why he's out here speaking, even though it's against his own self-interest, is because I think that he believes to some extent that he's innocent, or he's trying to convince himself that he's innocent. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Bill Cosby, very self-righteous and just believing his own lies. He sounded very narcissistic to me.
I just need to say he's guilty, and it's sick that he's trying to pander to black people and get us to take his side, like the last caller said.
Over the past few days, Kaalan Walker, the now convicted serial rapist and sex offender, has been very busy on Instagram. He's been sharing carefully selected clips, photos, and legal documents, all framed as proof that he was wrongly convicted. If you've followed this channel, you already know his history. Back in 2022, Rolling Stone reported extensively on his trial. The article detailed how prosecutors presented evidence from multiple women and underage girls who accused him of sexual assault, including DNA evidence tying him to at least one crime scene. A Los Angeles jury found him guilty of multiple counts of rape, assault, and other sex crimes. He was sentenced to 50 years to life in a California state prison. The trial wasn't about one accusation, it was about a pattern. A pattern of luring women through promises of professional opportunities, then assaulting them. This trial also highlighted his assault on one woman outside of a nightclub, where Kaalan offered to take her home since she was drunk. He then went on to assault her, and his DNA from a rape exam came back and was used for evidence on this trial and conviction. Now, from behind bars, he's using social media to argue his innocence. But instead of releasing the full court record, he's sharing only the parts that might sway people who don't know how the legal system works. Today, we're breaking down what he posted, why it's misleading, and what the law actually says. First, let's talk about the video he posted. It shows one of the women who accused him, a woman whose case was later dismissed, laughing, smiling, and dancing for the camera on the night she says she was assaulted. The implication is clear: if she was laughing, she couldn't have been raped. That is not how the law works. And it's not how trauma works. Victims can behave in ways that seem inconsistent with the stereotype of someone who's just been assaulted. They might smile to mask discomfort. They might dance to avoid conflict. They might appear calm because their brain is in shock. None of that means they consented to sex. This is exactly why most courts have rape shield laws. These laws are designed to keep irrelevant and prejudicial information, like someone's sexual history, social media posts, or unrelated behavior, out of the courtroom. The idea is to prevent juries from being swayed by personal attacks instead of focusing on the actual incident in question. Unless a video directly shows consent being clearly given for the act in question, it's usually not admissible in court. Why? Because smiling, laughing, or even being flirty in one moment does not give permanent, blanket consent. Consent is specific to each encounter, each time. In this case, the woman's allegations weren't part of the convictions. Her case was dismissed. But here's the important point: one dismissed case does not erase multiple other guilty verdicts. The jury still convicted him of raping other women and underage girls. Posting this one video is like saying, "Look, this one charge didn't stick, so I must be innocent of everything." That's not how criminal justice works. In short, this clip isn't proof of innocence, it's a distraction. It's using a character-based attack to suggest a victim can't be a victim if she ever smiled. That's legally and factually wrong. If you're wondering why this video wasn't part of the trial, the answer likely comes back to admissibility. Judges have to decide whether a piece of evidence will help a jury reach the truth, or whether it risks confusing them with unrelated details. Under Rape Shield rules, evidence that tries to undermine a victim's credibility based on personality, clothing, or unrelated actions is generally excluded. The goal is to keep the trial focused on whether a specific act of sexual assault occurred, not whether the victim fits a certain stereotype of how a victim should behave. Along with that video, he also posted screenshots of tweets from the same woman. In these tweets, she jokes about people looking at her body, offers to sell booty pics for tuition, talks about sex and sexual experiences, and even jokes about having sugar daddies. In short, the posts paint her as someone who is open about her sexuality and comfortable making sexual jokes online. Now here's the important legal and moral point. None of this proves or disproves whether she was raped in a specific encounter. A person can enjoy sex, joke about sex, or even sell sexual content, and still be assaulted if someone engages with them sexually without consent. This is another example of what's called a character attack. It's when the focus shifts from the alleged act to the person's lifestyle, reputation, or personality, in order to make them seem less believable. In sexual assault law, this is exactly what Rape Shield laws are designed to prevent. These laws exist so that a jury focuses on whether a specific incident was consensual, not whether they approve of how a person lives their life. Having an active sexual history, or even being a self-proclaimed sexual person, does not mean you forfeit the right to say no, and it does not make assault somehow acceptable. Next, let's talk about the legal document he posted. It's from a civil lawsuit filed by one of his accusers. The letter says her lawyers would settle the case for $1 million in exchange for a full release of any and all claims. He's calling this extortion. Here's what that actually means. In the US, anyone who believes they've been harmed can file a civil lawsuit. In a sexual assault case, the victim might sue for damages, like therapy costs, lost income, relocation expenses, and pain and suffering. A full release of claims is standard settlement language. It means, if the defendant agrees to pay the settlement amount, the plaintiff will drop the lawsuit and can't sue again over the same incident. This is how every civil settlement works, whether it's a car accident, a contract dispute, or a sexual assault claim. Calling this extortion is misleading. Extortion is when someone obtains money through threats of harm, not when a victim uses the legal process to seek damages. Civil lawsuits are a formal, lawful way to hold someone financially accountable after harm is proven or strongly alleged. In fact, it's common for victims in sexual assault cases to file both criminal and civil actions. The criminal trial determines guilt and prison time, the civil case addresses financial compensation. These are separate systems, and let's be clear, agreeing to a settlement doesn't necessarily mean the defendant admits guilt, sometimes it's done to avoid the cost of trial. But refusing to settle doesn't mean the case was false, either. In this situation, posting part of the settlement letter without context makes it seem like the victim was shaking him down for cash. In reality, it's part of a lawful process that exists to give survivors a path to recover from the harm they've suffered. Here's the bottom line. Posting a video of someone smiling doesn't prove what happened later. Attacking a victim's character isn't the same as disproving an assault. Civil settlements are not extortion, they're a normal part of the legal system. And focusing on one dropped case ignores the fact that he was convicted on multiple others, based on credible testimony and forensic evidence. This is what's known as selective presentation, showing the parts of a story that make you look good while leaving out the rest. It's a public relations strategy, not a legal defense. And while it might sway some people online, it doesn't change the court record. The convictions stand, the sentence stands, and Instagram is not an appeals court. Thank you for tuning in to uncover the truth and expand your mind, instead of falling into bias or blindly believing anything you hear. The law and legal system can be complex, and that's exactly why I made this video, so that no one is misled. This is also about protecting the victims from further scrutiny fueled by misleading information that, in my opinion, appears to be purposely spread by Kaalan himself. The victims in this case are strong, and they continue to be strong. They've been a voice not only for themselves, but for countless unknown victims who may never get the chance to speak out. As time goes on, if more false or misleading narratives are pushed into the public, I will continue to post videos. It's my duty to guide the public toward the truth. Thank you for watching, and for standing on the side of facts.